Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're focusing on something pretty specific but incredibly relevant. We're exploring how global financial firms can get a foothold in the Abu Dhabi global market. Specifically, we're zooming right in on the Category 4 investment advisor license. And this deep dive is brought to you by 10 Leaves. We've gone through a whole stack of sources, regulatory guides, policy updates, all the logistical breakdowns. And our mission today is to give you the blueprint. What are the real advantages? What are the new rules? And what's the actual path to setting up in or from ADGM?
Yeah, and that's a really good time to be talking about this. ADGM isn't just growing, it's accelerating. The scale is just impressive. By mid-2025, you're looking at 154 fund and asset managers there. They're overseeing 209 funds and assets under management. That's been spiking with a year-on-year growth of around 42%. It's really cemented itself as the hub in the MENA region.
Wow. That kind of speed is just impossible to ignore. So let's start at the beginning. What is the fundamental draw? Why are all these global wealth management and alternative investment firms looking to set up shop there?
I think what stands out first for any international firm is the bedrock of stability. ADGM operates with a really robust independent regulator.
Yeah.
That's the FSRA, and it's all anchored in a common law judicial system. That is critical.
Okay, why is that common law piece so important? Break that down for us.
Well, it immediately lowers the risk. The legal and administrative risk for any firms, especially if they're coming from the UK, the US, Singapore, they're just instantly comfortable. They know the language, the predictability of the courts. It's a separate English-speaking system, totally distinct from the wider UAE legal system, and that gives firms a lot of confidence.
Right.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's also about access. You have this unparalleled proximity to Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth capital, to major institutional flows, and strategically, its location in the Masa region, that's Middle East, Africa, South Asia, it's a geographic sweet spot. It connects Asia and Africa. Plus, they've built one of the region's most advanced regulatory frameworks for digital assets, which signal they're looking ahead.
So that's the grand strategy. What about the specific financial perks, the things that really make it efficient for a firm looking to set up? We're talking maximum operational flexibility, right?
Absolutely. Think about control. You get 100% foreign ownership. That's a huge green light. And there are no restrictions on bringing in foreign talent or, crucially, on capital repatriation.
And the tax profile, that's got to be a major part of the conversation.
Oh, it's extremely compelling. Zero corporate tax, with the usual qualifications, of course,
Yeah.
and zero tax on employee income. That combination of regulatory independence and, huge tax efficiency is a major, major benefit.
Okay, let's switch gears to the license itself. The Category 4, this is the core of it for advisory firms. What exact activities does this license let you do?
So the CAD 4 is built around two main pillars, advisory and arranging. You can give investment advice, you can arrange deals and investments, and you can arrange credit facilities.
And when we talk Cat 4, what's the key guardrail? The one thing you have to remember, is it purely advisory, so non-discretionary?
That is the key distinction, yes. It's strictly non-discretionary. You cannot make investment decisions for your client. You are there to advise, to facilitate, to arrange. And while it's mainly for professional clients, the source material is clear that a retail endorsement is available if you want to serve that segment.
Okay, let's nail down those definitions. Arranging deals. What exactly does the FSRA mean by that?
Arranging deals and investments is basically when you're setting things up. You're organizing or facilitating the arrangements for someone else to buy, sell, or subscribe for an investment, a virtual asset, whatever it may be. You're the orchestrator.
Got it. And advising.
So advising on investments or credit, that happens the moment you give a recommendation, an opinion on whether a client should do something. If you go beyond just giving factual data, you're in regulated territory. And finally, arranging credit is just what it sounds like. You set up the deal that lets someone borrow money, but you're not the one lending it. Cat 4 covers that whole suite of functions.
This is where it gets really interesting, because the landscape here has shifted recently, and it seems to really benefit these lower-risk advisory firms. Let's talk capital requirements. The base capital requirement, the BCR, for a Cat 4 firm is now $50,000 US. That's up from $10,000, but still very accessible.
It's $50,000 is the floor.
Yeah.
The minimum starting point. And we should note the exception. If a firm is actually handling client assets or runs a private financing platform, that minimum capital requirement jumps up to $150,000.
Right.
But the major benefit, I think, is the new clarification around the expenditure-based capital minimum, or EBCM.
Right, the EBCM waiver. That seems like a critical takeaway here.
It is. It's huge. Firms that do not hold client assets or insurance money are now completely exempt from that EBCM calculation. For those that do need to calculate it, the formula is 1852 of their annual audited expenditure.
That's such a strange fraction, 1852.
It is, but it's just a mechanism. It basically requires a firm to hold about 3 months' worth of operating expenses in capital. So the waiver simplifies things immensely, and it just reduces the financial burden for advisory-only firms.
And that speaks directly to cost. On that note, what about physical presence? You don't need a huge long-term lease anymore, do you?
That's right. The mandatory physical presence can now be satisfied with modern serviced offices, flexi-desk options, places like Hub 71 or cloud spaces. It means a firm can get their regulatory footprint established without a massive upfront cost for real estate. We're seeing yearly rent for these starting as low as $10,000. That's massive flexibility.
Okay, final point in this section. Geographic reach. If you set up an ADGM, are you stuck there? Or can you service the wider UAE market?
No, you're not stuck at all. ADGM firms can service clients right across the UAE and globally for that matter. The rule is that the regulated activity must be carried on in or from ADGM. So you can market your services and onboard clients anywhere in the UAE without needing another onshore license. As long as your core functions, your compliance, all of that stays rooted in the financial center.
Okay, let's move on to the actual operational side of things. Staffing, it sounds pretty rigorous.
It is. ADGM is very focused on governance. So at a minimum, you need a board of directors plus a whole slate of senior roles. We're talking an SEO, an FO, MLRO, risk officer, and auditors.
Wow. That sounds like a massive headache for, say, a U.S. or European firm that doesn't want to relocate half its senior team. What are the key residency requirements we need to know?
And that's the hurdle, but it's a specific one. Only the senior executive officer, the SEO who needs 10 to 15 years of experience, and the compliance officer / MLRO who needs 10 plus years have to be ordinarily resident in the UAE. Those are the two critical hires you have to find locally.
So just those two roles have to be resident. What about the others? That's where the flexibility comes in, I assume.
Precisely. And this is a major win for lowering your setup costs. The finance officer, the risk officer, and the internal auditor roles. They can all be outsourced to a competent service provider. It just drastically cuts down on the relocation pressure.
Okay, so let's walk through the application timeline. It starts with an introductory meeting, right? Then you submit the regulatory business plan, the RBP.
Exactly. The RBP is essentially the Bible of your whole operation. Once that's accepted, which takes about 15 to 20 days, the formal FSRA review kicks off. It's another 60 to 90 days. And during that time, they scrutinize everything. They'll conduct detailed interviews with your key people, your SEO, your FO, and your COMLRO.
And the big milestone is the in-principle approval, the IPA.
That's the one. Once you have the IPA, you move to the final conditions. Things like setting up the legal entity, depositing that $50,000 minimum share capital, finalizing your auditors, getting professional indemnity insurance. Only when all that is done do they issue the final authorization.
It's a serious process, and it has real costs. The fees are significant. You're looking at FSRA application and annual license fees. For advising on investments, that's $15,000 to apply, and $15,000 annually. Then you add registration authority fees, like a $16,000 annual business activity fee, plus all the visa and incorporation costs. It's a real investment.
And that brings us back to the complexity of it all. The RBP, the capital calculations. They're unique to every single firm based on very specific financial models. And given how important those FSRA interviews are and the residency rules we talk about, how do firms actually bridge that gap, that knowledge gap and the staffing gap?
And that is exactly why firms turn to specialist regulatory consultants. It's almost a necessity. Navigating that FSRA rulebook, drafting the RBP, handling those capital models, it requires deep local expertise right from the start. These specialized firms really solve that dual problem of regulatory rigor and staffing flexibility, which is a good moment to bring it back to our sponsor, 10 Leaves. This is exactly what they do. They offer that end-to-end support. They focus heavily on that complex pre-licensing stage, helping structure the business model, preparing the RBP and financial projections, drafting all the essential policy manuals.
And what's particularly valuable, given the rules we just discussed, is their provision of outsourced services.
Yeah.
They can step in and provide the outsourced compliance officers, finance officers, risk officers. That ensures all the experience requirements are met without a firm having to relocate everyone immediately. They also provide comprehensive training to get the directors and senior staff ready for those intense FSRE interviews, which is, frankly, often where applications can stumble. So if you synthesize all this, the success of ADGM is really built on a deliberate dual strategy. It offers the stability and familiarity of a common law framework, but it combines that with this regulatory flexibility like the EBCM waiver and the office options, and this growing access to regional capital. That whole setup just makes it an incredibly compelling, modern choice for lower-risk financial services like wealth management.
It really is a powerful combination. Which brings me to a final provocative thought for you to consider. Given the flexibility ADGM now offers in office space, and that explicit waiver of the EBCM for advisory firms not holding client assets, how will this lower risk-focused regulatory environment continue to reshape the global distribution of investment advisory talent? Could it actually start pulling talent and capital away from older, more expensive financial centers? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you feel thoroughly informed on the pathway to the ADGM Category 4 license. This deep dive was brought to you by 10 Leaves.